Yes, we all know cinnamon rolls are delicious. However, to me, they're just a carrier for other, more delicious things. Why red velvet cinnamon rolls? I think the better question is, why not red velvet cinnamon rolls? For some unknown reason to me, people absolutely love red velvet anything. I mean, it's not quite chocolate, it's full of red food dye. What's not to love, right? But seriously, I'm gonna show you how to make a really amazingly delicious enriched dough, and then we're gonna roll it up with chocolate and granulated sugar and brown sugar and vegan butter and of course cinnamon. It's gonna be amazing. So let's get to it. First things first, we want to weigh out all of our ingredients, mise en place this place up. And I'm getting my water, vegan butter, and milk into a small saucepan. I want to get those on low heat. We do not want to heat this up too much. It's just going to create a nice bath for our yeast to go swimming in. So we don't want anything over like 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So I don't even let my butter melt entirely. Just once it starts melting and the liquid feels warm to the touch, I pull it off the heat, and I'm putting in about a heaping teaspoon of active dry yeast. Now, if you get those little packets, it's going to be about 1/2 of a packet of the good stuff. And we want to let that hang out and bloom a little bit. It's going to start to look frothy. When it's nice and extra frothy, that's when we want to add it to the rest of our ingredients. So I'm using a stand mixer for this because it's just easier. If you want to do this by hand, that's totally fine. You can, but I'm going to be using my good old KitchenAid. And I did add the red food coloring to this dough. I just put it in with the liquid ingredients and then streamed it in with my dough hook into the dry stuff. So I've got this on low speed, and with the red food coloring, you'll want to be careful because this stuff will stain anything it comes into contact with. So wear an apron. If you've got gloves, always a good idea. I'm gonna mix this until the dough comes together. You can see it's a nice, glorious red shade with that little bit of cocoa in there. This is what makes our red velvet. Now I am popping this onto low speed, and then I went and took a little siesta. Yes. I mixed the dough for about 10 to 15 minutes until it was nice and smooth. And then I just took it out of the bowl, oiled the bowl really well, and then plopped it back in. I do like to shape it by pulling the edges underneath to make it into a nice ball. And that is going to allow our yeast to rise better and create a better gluten structure. So while that is rising, I went ahead and pulled out my butter so that it is nice and soft. We're using vegan butter for this. Use whatever you prefer the flavor of the most. I prefer that country crock new vegan butter with oil. Oh, that stuff is so good. Whew. Once our dough has risen so beautifully, look at that dough. Oh, it's just gorgeous. It's beautiful color, slightly cocoa-esque. Oh, very nice. I dusted my work surface with a little bit of all-purpose flour and got my dough out and rolled. We want it to be wider than it is long because we're doing 6 large rolls instead of smaller rolls. Now, if you want smaller rolls, then roll it out pretty long and make it less wide, and then you can kind of make them more traditionally in like an 8x8 pan, kind of crammed together. So I got my dough rolled out, and then I took some of that soft vegan butter and I added vegan organic cane sugar to it and some black cocoa. Oh yeah,
the good stuff. Add a healthy dose of cinnamon. Mix it into a paste and then spread that onto my dough with a little offset spatula. Now, the thing is, you can see here that I put the rest of the stick of vegan butter on there and a little brown sugar. Now, that's for the extra rich version. You don't have to do this, but I got excited and I couldn't help myself. So with the recipe, I'll include the extra rich version so you can, make that decision for yourself and your own arteries, okay? So get that on there really nice and even and smooth, and we're gonna roll it up. I like to start on the edge farthest away from me, pulling the dough tight as I roll so that I get a nice tight cinnamon roll. And kind of just, shape it until it's a pretty uniform log. And then I marked it with a serrated blade. Now I very quickly just sprayed a pan and stuck a long piece of parchment paper in it and sprayed the top of the parchment paper again with just some butter flavored oil spray. Now I've seen the nice fancy method of cutting it with twine, and while that is really cool and amazing, you know what? A serrated blade with a very light touch works just as well. And this is a pretty sturdy dough, so it's not going to smash down as easily. So I just take my time cutting it. And I put the 6 rolls in there. Now with the little end pieces, you want to put the nice cut side facing up because that's ultimately what's going to be the presentation side. So we're going to get those in there evenly spaced and pop the towel back over and let them hang out for about another hour. And when they're ready to go, you can just turn your oven on to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and get them in the oven. They're going to bake for exactly 20 minutes. While those are hanging out in the sweat box, we want to make our glaze. Now this is just a simple glaze, and as you can see, I'm adding vanilla bean paste to it. So we've just got our organic powdered sugar, a little bit of almond milk, and that vanilla bean paste. And I keep a giant bottle around. I mean, that's normal, right? Well, I put enough in there to give it a really good vanilla flavor, and just whisked it up until I got the right consistency. I usually just eyeball this type of glaze because it is so simple. If it's too thin, add more sugar. If it's too thick, add more milk. Pretty straightforward. So as soon as those rolls come out of the oven, I gave them a nice little coat of glaze. Now I made enough glaze to be able to coat them out of the oven. And what this does is it instantly locks in all of the moisture in those rolls. So they're gonna give you a little bit more of a shelf life. Not by much though, because, well, cinnamon rolls just should be eaten right away regardless. But alas, this will give you a little bit of extra time and make them so much more nice and gooey. So give that a good coat and then let them cool. And once they're cool, or almost cool, because I mean, we're not gonna let them cool completely, right? We gotta eat these warm. So right before you eat them, when you're ready to serve, take a little bit more of that glaze, drizzle it over the top, and ooh, dang, these are good.
Well, that sure was exciting. I mean, truly, I completely enjoy spending the whole day in my kitchen making something delicious and also fun to look at. If you liked this video, please do consider subscribing if you're not already, and hit that like button. And all the links to the recipe and some of the tools that I used are down in the description. And say hi to me in the comments too, if you so fancy. I would love to hear from you. But without further ado, let's try these red velvet cinnamon rolls. I'm pretty excited. Look at that cross section. Oh man, that's good stuff. Gonna do a little dipperoo and some extra glaze here. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Yeah, I'm just gonna, just a second. All right, it's time for your bite. You ready? Pretty good, right? I mean, like, pretty A-okay. Well, now that you tried them, you're gonna have to make them for yourself. So